Ayala Corporation. Now, Ayala Corporation had itself disrupted because a place out of shares that came in earlier on caused a gap down in prices, as you see over here. And usually when these things take place, the stock may need some time to be able to wind up all over again. So I'd think that you probably see Ayala Corp wind in a very wide pattern. And perhaps I will just draw a rectangular pattern between this range and this range. And given the context of that large box that it currently is in, a more favorable price perhaps would be closer to about 900, maybe all the way up to about 870 as a potential buy-in for Ayala Corp. And we will look to range trade this so long as this wide range exists. The top end of that, or resistance, is closer to about 1,000 to about 1,020. So while this box is maintained, you look to buy closer to the lower end of the box, and you look to be able to sell at the higher end of the box. Metro Pacific. Now, Metro Pacific is taking its time in building its base. We've had two situations here to show me that accumulation is actually coming in quite well. We saw a pattern here earlier in the year, which we actually took advantage of when we saw it. We have another pattern over here, which also seems to be completing itself. But I think the number of shares being traded in MPI is just so heavy that is the reason why it's taking its sweet time in turning itself around. But I think after this pullback that you see, and you see a much more elevated movement coming out there, you probably see more regular advances come in MPI. But for now, this is a buy into pullbacks and not to buy into a momentum run, because I don't feel we're going to be hitting that type of market right now. And since this stock usually has a heavy amount of volume flows necessary, it might take some time in doing to accumulate more shares and cause it to push up into a momentum spree. So I think buybacks, perhaps maybe slightly over 462, might be something we should look forward to. And I do hope that the 450 low that we saw here does not break. That should be able to put it in the right regard. But just be more gradual in the way you pick this up. No need to be able to hurry in buying MPI. Hopefully we can see targets back at 550 in about the medium-term cast. Now, AGI has been quite a bit of a stretch. We've actually broken above the 200-day exponential moving average recently, and it didn't look back. The stock started to escalate quite firmly all the way up to about 1420 to where it is now. And I think it may be running soon into some problems because a previous high sits closer to about 1477. So right now, it might have not hit that target yet. There might be a little bit more action coming in here because the MACD is still quite wide, and that tells me momentum is still in order. But it's very clear to me that overbought levels have been hit, because you can see the RSI levels here are already turning red, and that means that you're in that overbought state. So prepare for some choppiness to come out of this pretty soon, especially if this manages to hit the previous top, and I'm almost sure you'll probably encounter a heavier degree of resistance there. If you're looking for potential buy-in, I think you should wait for a reaction. Support for this is standing closer at 12 pesos and 50 cents. That's far distance from where we are. And so you're taking too much of a large risk for a small amount of gain, and the risk reward doesn't make sense. So I would probably wait for that reaction to come back in before putting any more additions into it. And if I had some, I'd start lightening up as I come closer to the higher end or that previous high port you had at 1470. First Gen. Now, First Gen did have a little bit of a pullback in the last few days, although we did see a bit of a recovery just recently. But MACD readings are still telling me that the corrective element is still very much in place. So what I would probably see here is that you probably see it attempt to be able to chop around into its reaction. You will get days that it will make some rebounds such as what you're seeing right now. But I think it takes a bit more winding time for this, or consolidation time, before this can actually attempt to stabilize. Right now, short-term support is placed at about 950 all the way to about 19 pesos. We do hope 19 can hold and generate a little bit more demand thrust for it so that it can carry itself up from there. But just in case it breaks that threshold, it might have to pull back an extra peso all the way back down to 18 pesos to be able to finish the necessary reaction that it needs to do. But the uptrend is very clear to me. This is something you want to be buying back into a pullback situation. Then we have First Philippine Holdings. Now, First Philippine Holdings has actually been climbing up for some time, and I think a little bit more activity and a reaction is necessary. The stock is very much overbought right now, and this needs to be able to quiet down to a heavy degree. Right now, prices at 75.50 is so far away from its 67 peso support, and usually when you have that type of risk, I think after this momentum round, you really want to be a little careful because the ability to draw back might be high, and that could put you into a situation trying to figure out what to do into the short term. So wait for patterns to develop, wait for a pullback to be shown. I would like to see the narrowing of this price to this moving average so that we don't see too heavy risk into the stock. So just wait a little bit more, and I think we'll get that opportunity in due time. Then we have Semirara. Now, Semirara has been on the very continuing downtrend for quite some time. It's tried to be able to rebound several times, and we still don't see a major reversal point for this. If I were to draw a downtrend line here, you would see that this trend line still exists. Prices are still quite far away from it. And even if prices rally all the way up to 27.50, that downtrend line remains intact. And so into a downtrend, any rallies I see would be a selling opportunity for me. So if you guys are scalping this for potential small rally inside, and remember, you're only doing inside for a very short-term trade because no major reversal has been taking place just yet. Yes, there is a sign of a bit of divergence, but like I said, I think this rallies back to 27.50 or maybe even 27.70. This will encounter some pressure. So remember, you're taking this as a short-term trade. A lot of the issues that we cover still show better lean and potential rather than what we're looking over here. So you don't really have to be able to focus heavily on this. If you want to take a very much longer-term position, you may have to be prepared to sit with it for quite some time. For the short term, like I said, sell it on resistance and offer to buy it back whenever it hits an oversold reading once again. Bloomberry. Now, Bloomberry has also generated a reversal pattern. We've already seen that the major downtrend line has already been broken, and we see prices now turning back up. But with prices hitting overbought levels recently, it's now into a corrective run. Now, we need to see prices hopefully stabilize closer to about 10 or 990, and we do hope that it doesn't stretch all the way down because it can actually go all the way back to 930 if it really wants to do a full-size correction. But hopefully we can try to be able to limit off whatever pullback you can get to try to work off a preparatory window for Bloomberry. I think it's still early in the corrective stand, so I don't want to be able to wrestle on too much aggressiveness right now. Wait for the support levels I've mentioned to come back before you to buy back. But this is something that you probably want to be able to include into your portfolio gradually over time as these pullbacks take place. ISM. Now, this stock has gone into everyone's radar earlier on because of the third telco opportunities. And because of that, from October to November, we've seen a very, very heavy advance in the stock. However, recently, after the declaration of the winner had taken place, the stock price had actually fallen back down to 517. It's currently making a recovery run over here, but if you notice, the recovery that it's making is actually very tight. And such movements tell me someone is distributing the shares. And that means someone is candidly taking their profits off this, and they don't seem to be finished just yet. I would put some downside risk here. So just be very careful about what this can show you. Because if the support structure here breaks, and let me draw that line for you. If you see that line break, and you might see prices probably scaling back down to about 5 pesos. I hope it doesn't go all the way down to the next level of support because that's all the way at 330, and that could be a bit painful. And it's not untoward to look at because you've got quite a bit of a size of the advance that it's trying to be able to pull back from. Normally, these patterns that you see like this are what we call wedges, and rising wedges like this are actually very dangerous patterns. So I would say be relatively light in this, and if the support structures do break, you want to be able to step out of this, wait for the opportunity for prices to settle back at more supportive areas between 5, maybe slightly lower than that, and then wait for reversals patterns to come back before you even engage back to this. I do hope I'm wrong and that prices can climb out of this, and if it does so, then congratulations, but I would suggest that you probably want to raise some guard for the meantime, because you don't want to be in the raw end of this if this support breaks.